The Victorian era is often considered the most pivotal period for technological advancement in human history, while it was marked by rapid change, groundbreaking scientific discoveries, and remarkable inventions. It was also a time steeped in the dark realities of exploitative colonization. As vast territories in Asia and Africa fell under the imperial control of European powers, one isolated island nation managed to resist colonization and embarked on an astonishing journey of modernization. This transformation ultimately positioned Japan as East Asia's first true modern superpower on the global stage. In this video, we will delve into the Bakumatsu and Meiji periods of Japanese history, exploring how a nation entrenched in feudalism achieved one of the most successful modernization processes in the world in less than a century. At the onset of the Victorian Age, during the 1830s and 1840s, Japan was entrenched in its Tenpo era. Following the unification of the nation by the Tokugawa shogunate in 1600, Japan's population had tripled, reaching the Malthusian limit, the point at which population growth outpaces agricultural sustenance and wage levels. This surge strained resources, leading to heavy taxation in rural areas that were already unable to sustain further growth. Consequently, the economy began to decline, a trend exacerbated by the Senkinkatai system established by the Tokugawa shogunate. This system mandated that the powerful feudal lords, known as daimyos, alternate their residence between their domains and the capital city of Edo every other year, leaving their families behind in Edo. While this practice allowed the shogunate to monitor the daimyos closely, it imposed a significant financial burden on them, akin to a compulsory stay at an expensive Airbnb. As Japan's population continued to swell, cities expanded rapidly, intensifying social strains and prompting luxury-seeking behaviors among the daimyos, samurai, and merchant classes. Samurai were expected to uphold a certain standard of living reflective of their honor. Yet Japan's rigid caste system prohibited them from engaging in agriculture or business activities that might have alleviated their financial burdens. As a result, many samurai found themselves increasingly indebted to the merchant class. During the Tenpo era, a series of natural disasters compounded these economic struggles, resulting in political unrest and societal shifts. The Great Tenpo Famine, brought on by crop failures due to severe weather conditions, led to widespread starvation. Rice, Japan's staple crop, was not just critical for sustenance. It was intricately woven into the fabric of the nation's economy and social structure. As rural rice harvests failed, prices skyrocketed, sparking widespread social discontent. In response to the turmoil, the Tokugawa Bakufu government implemented the Tenpo reforms, aiming to curb merchant profits and stabilize prices. However, in a misguided effort, the government dismantled powerful guilds that had previously regulated internal commerce, a decision that backfired by allowing prices, particularly for rice, to inflate further without oversight, reacting to the inflation they had inadvertently fueled. The Bakufu launched a campaign against monopolies while simultaneously seeking to enhance their revenues at the cost of certain daimyos, leading them to accrue even more debt. The situation reached a breaking point in 1837 and 1838, when mass starvation caused an epidemic in Osaka, resulting in a staggering loss of 1/10 of the city's population. In a moment of desperation, the samurai bureaucrat Shio Hichiro ignited a rebellion on February 19, 1837, signaling his followers to rise against the establishment. Farmers and impoverished urban residents seized the properties of wealthy merchants, igniting flames that consumed over 3,000 homes and more than 40,000 koku of rice. Political unrest surged as harsh taxation fueled protests known as Ikki spontaneous, contractually created alliances between elites and commoners seeking to achieve objectives unattainable through traditional channels. Faced with this upheaval, Bakufu officials warned the daimyos that they needed to collaborate to suppress these revolts, leading to a gradual erosion of the daimyo's authority. The commercialization of rural areas caused a rift. Petty daimyos and vassals hesitated to shoulder the costs of administrative centralization and rationalization imposed by a government desperate for revenue. This desperation often found expression in actions that diminished the support for samurai retainers, rendering them increasingly irrelevant and burdensome to the state. Foreign shocks, Morrison Incident, and Opium War. The crisis deepened for the Tokugawa government in 1837 with the Morrison Incident, a diplomatic debacle involving shipwrecked Japanese sailors and an American merchant vessel, threatening to compromise Japan's long-standing Sakoku national seclusion policy. This incident prompted a cautious re-evaluation of foreign relations, leading to the repeal of the edict preventing foreign vessels from entering Japanese waters and stimulating a rise in the study of Western knowledge, known as Rangaku. Throughout the 1840s, Japan faced persistent pressure from foreign powers eager to establish trade relations. While news of Britain's victory in the First Opium War against China sent shockwaves through the nation. If the cultural heart of East Asia could succumb to the might of Western powers, what threat loomed for Japan? In reaction, the Bakufu increased its focus on Western military technology, sparking a national dialogue about how to respond to foreign encroachments. Despite these efforts, the 1840s marked a continued decline for the Tokugawa regime, which was facing turmoil when Commodore Matthew Perry arrived in 1853 with American warships, forcing Japan to confront an open world. Perry's black ships in Bakumatsu opens Japan the Bakumatsu period, spanning from 1853 to 1868, began amidst Japan's urgent desire to avoid repeating China's humiliating experience at the hands of colonial powers. Facing the formidable presence of Western nations, the Tokugawa shogunate entered into several unequal treaties that exacerbated social divisions within Japan. Among the political activists known as Isshin Shishi, two factions emerged. One faction remained loyal to the Tokugawa shogunate, believing in the necessity of cooperation with foreign powers to ensure the nation's survival. The opposing faction yearned for a return to imperial authority, rallying around the mantra Sanju, which translates to revere the emperor, expel the barbarians. This movement found a powerful ally in Emperor Kame, who began to break with centuries of tradition, actively involving himself in state affairs. Tensions escalated in March 1863, when the emperor issued a decree to expel the barbarians, though the Tokugawa shogunate had no intention of enforcing this order. Rifts deepened between Protokugawa factions and the Sonojoi movement, resulting in violence that targeted both rival Japanese factions and Westerners in Japan. The shogunate sought military aid from France, bolstering its land forces and acquiring steam warships for its navy. However, this assistance was insufficient to prevail in the Boshin War, 1868 to 1869, which ultimately led to the dissolution of the Tokugawa shogunate. For the first time in centuries, the imperial court regained its authority to govern Japan, with Emperor Meiji taking the reins of power. The Meiji Restoration, 1868 to 1912, the victors of the Boshin War, the Satsuma and CHSH domains, became instrumental in driving Japan toward rapid modernization during the Meiji Restoration. Their slogan of Sanji was swiftly replaced by Bunmai Kaika, as civilization and enlightenment and Fukoku, Kohei, enriched the country. The Meiji Restoration initiated a remarkable transformation primarily aimed at preventing Western colonization. Japan strove to assimilate the positive aspects of Western culture while also seeking to restore its ancient values. To facilitate this profound social and technological evolution, the new Meiji government recognized the need to learn from the West, exemplified by the Iwakura Mission of 1871 to 1873, which dispatched Japanese officials to study Western practices. Following the Boshin War, the daimyos surrendered their armies to the emperor and were often reappointed as governors of newly established prefectures. These prefectures were administered by appointed bureaucrats from the centralized government, which was firmly established by 1871. The Meiji government aimed to cultivate a robust national identity and enacted a standard language, Hyo-jungo, to unify the various regional dialects. Additionally, local assemblies were created, allowing common citizens a degree of participation in politics. Though their power was limited and did not challenge the government's authority, in drafting their national constitution, the Meiji leaders were selective in their approach to Western models. The United States Constitution was dismissed for being overly liberal, while the French and Spanish models were deemed too severe. In Britain's Westminster system was viewed as unwieldy. Ultimately, the structure of the Reichstag in the newly unified German Empire was selected as the best fit. In 1885, a cabinet was formed, with it Hirobumi serving as Japan's first prime minister, supported by foreign advisors, predominantly from Germany, Together, they forged a model balancing the sovereign authority of the emperor with an elected legislature capable of limiting that power. The Meiji Constitution of 1889, which came into effect in 1890, established that sovereignty resided with the emperor rather than the populace. The emperor embodied all three branches of government and commanded the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy. The constitution contained ambiguities regarding the selection of the cabinet and its relationship with the Diet, contributing to the militarization of Japan in the 20th century. The abolition of the shoguns, daimyos, and the caste system known as shinokasho brought an end to the samurai class, transforming everyone into a common citizen with the freedom to pursue their ambitions. Omura Masujiro, the former daimyo of CHSH, was appointed as Vice Minister of War, tasked with modernizing the military through the conscription and training of commoners. With this shift, the samurai lost their monopoly on warfare and their societal privileges, leading to a drastic reduction in their stipends. The financial burden became unsustainable, forcing many ex-samurai into new occupations or into poverty. Seigo Takamori, seeking to aid disenfranchised ex-samurai, proposed a military expedition into Korea following diplomatic tensions after the Psycho Run debate of 1869. He believed that such an endeavor could provide employment for the samurai and new land for them in Korea, akin to their former domains. However, his proposal was rejected on the grounds that Japan was not yet ready for such an undertaking, ultimately culminating in the Satsuma Rebellion of 1877. In the Battle of Shiroyama, Seigo and his followers lost their lives, marking a conclusive end to the samurai era, though the Bushido Code would later see a revival, albeit in a distorted form, during Japan's modernization. A significant factor in the failure of the Satsuma Rebellion was the modernization of the Japanese military. Common citizens were conscripted into military service for 4 years, and by 1872, the military organization had been split into the Army and Navy ministries. Initial military reforms were influenced by the Tokugawa shogunate's collaboration with French advisors. From 1872 to 1880, French advisors established schools to educate Japanese officers while training infantry using French weapons and setting up munitions manufacturing and military academies. However, after France's defeat in the Franco-Prussian War in 1871, Japan gradually transitioned to modeling its military after German systems, culminating in a shift led by third Prime Minister Yamagata Aritomo, who pushed for the complete adoption of the German military framework. This period also witnessed the establishment of dual command structures for the military operational and administrative. The Imperial Japanese Navy, initially influenced by French tactics, eventually adopted British naval models by 1870, solidifying Japan's emergence as a formidable maritime power as part of its broader modernization efforts. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to support our work and never miss an upload. Like this video, drop a comment, and share it with others to show your support and help us grow this historical community.